We have our robo voice. Once again, yes, welcome everyone to Demystifying Gutenberg. I'm really excited about this topic because whenever I have a session, I'm usually fiddling around with the WP admin with folks. And I think Gutenberg is just one thing where people are like, what does this mean? How does it affect me? And if I wanted to use it, how can I use it? So in this session, I hope we can kind of demystify that aspect of it by talking about what it is, how does it contribute to WordPress today, what you're using currently right now if you're on the latest version, and also demonstrate how it can extend the block editor experience as well. And then if we have any time and if we didn't get to your questions as we go through the session, we can also dive into more questions. So we'll also, when I say demonstrate, I'll be going into the back end to clarify there. All right, diving in, what is Gutenberg? So Gutenberg is WordPress's block editor. This is what was introduced in, oh my gosh, December 2018, already is 4 years ago. You probably didn't notice it too much because it's really a multi-phase project. So little bits here and there of this code named Gutenberg project, now the block editor, have been introduced into the WordPress core ecosystem ever since. But what this did was introduce a modular approach to modifying your entire site. So that's that block modular approach. And this just allows people to have more individual edit freedom to edit content blocks on posts and pages. You can add or adjust widgets with this technology. You can even design your site headers, footers, navigation in this kind of site editing support experience as well. So it contributes to a lot of aspects of your site now that maybe you weren't aware of. And as part of its guiding goals, Gutenberg touches, this project, codenamed Gutenberg, touches on 4 major parts of WordPress, and that is the editing experience, customization of the site, collaboration with editors, for example, and multilingual. To break that down a little further, so editing, easier editing, just simplifying the editor experience. I know there's still some people that deeply use like the classic editor, for example, but that experience, while it's not going away, it's being introduced in block form now. So if you're still, like, I love that experience so much, you can still have it, but now it's a block. So we want to ensure that, we don't just stay within the classic editing realm. With these new blocks that are being developed, there should be an easier editorial process that comes with it. And then when it comes to customization, full site editing, which is now the site editor experience. So I should correct this slide. That's part of what Gutenberg project is contributing to. Also block patterns, those kind of like templated forms that you can just plug and play, block directory, and any block-based themes. The code that is being developed in Gutenberg contributes to that as well. On this third phase here, collaboration is something that is going to be a major player coming up. And we're going to watch a very short 1 or 2 minute video with a breakdown of all of these, but that is essentially being able to co-author content, being potentially in the same post as someone else, like you would with a Google Doc, actively collaborating on creating content together, which is an experience for maybe large editorial teams. That would be pretty phenomenal, right? To just be able to dive into one doc and not have to copy over into your site afterward. You can just work directly within your WordPress site. And then a future horizon, we have multilingual aspects. So this would mean, if you have, if you're a Japanese user or a Russian user, you can then have all of this be in your own local language. That is phase 4 because it's been noted as a very hefty project to take on, though not impossible. And so to get a bit more detail into this, I wanted to share with you all just a clip from State of the Word, which is an annual event that is put on where the WordPress.org director, Matt Mullilenweg, is essentially talking about what's new and coming up for WordPress. So let me share my sound real quick and let's see what he had to say.
To remind you, we laid out a plan many years ago, which we were still following.
Can people hear the sound? Okay, and please let me know if it's too low.
Phases of Gutenberg. Just to remind everyone, 2018, we started the first phase of Gutenberg, which was...
Let me update the sound. Oh yeah, it is very low, you can see there.
To remind you, we laid out a plan many years ago, which we're still following today, around the 4 phases of Gutenberg. Just to remind everyone, 2018, we started the first phase of Gutenberg, which was around easier editing. This was the introduction of the block editor and the idea that the block editor will be able to edit everything inside the post box. So we were thinking inside the box with blocks. We're currently in the middle of phase 2 of Gutenberg, which we originally started in 2019, but it's all around customization. This is thinking outside of the post box. All the things I showed you earlier allow you to edit your entire site using this concept of blocks is happening now. And what's beautiful about this is, one, all the plugins and things that used to have custom interfaces, which are now being built on the Gutenberg framework, inherit all of the work we put into accessibility, keyboard navigation, everything that's built into Gutenberg, the clean code, etc. Also, when new users come to WordPress, or new existing WordPress users are learning Gutenberg, they only have to learn things once. It used to be that the way to edit a widget or create something, using a short code in a post, there were like 4 or 5 ways to essentially do the same thing inside of WordPress. And we're now consolidating this all to this one block interface. This idea that the blocks are like Lego blocks and that they can be used anywhere. With 5.9, which is coming out next month, we are, I would say, at the MVP, the minimum viable product of this customization phase of Gutenberg. So I want to remind you of the next 2 phases that we're heading into. The 3rd phase of Gutenberg is going to be around collaboration. Note, I listed this start at 2023, not next year. It's because I think we don't want to leave phase 2 too early, because there's still so much to do. I'm forgetting the number, but how many block themes were there? It was like 38, 28? 28. That needs to be 5,000. Like, we need to really invest a lot in creating patterns and themes that take advantage of all these blocks. It's the new standard thing. If you look at what block editor plugins have been doing, and it's kind of a balkanized proprietary way, we now have a standard way to do it within WordPress. And the more we can invest into that, the more that'll enable people to create really unique web presences. And then finally, which we don't have a year attached to, and in WordCamp Europe, I get a really hard time for, is the idea of multilingual. So we want to take everything we just talked about and essentially allow you to publish sites in multiple languages with a workflow that makes sense. Because the world is multilingual, is basically the best way to put it. So.
Okay, so that, I should have prefaced it with, that was late November 2021. So when he's saying next year, he's talking about this year, which we already went through. And as you may have noted, 5.9 is now so far away. We're at 6.1. So it's kind of interesting to look back at this video and see all of the hopes in what we could accomplish this year, and then also what has been accomplished. Anyone who has been fiddling with the block editor will probably notice a lot of the things that were noted have come to pass. So if you're interested, there's going to be another State of the Word very, very soon. I want to link you to that. This is basically where you get the latest news. Yeah, the 2023 prediction, Linda says, is pretty spot on. Yeah, I'm really hoping for that collaboration next year. But the next one is coming. We'll get more updates about this for sure in that session. So please mark your calendars. There will also be a video afterward if you are not able to do the live stream. And then looking back at that, Matt Mullilenweg ambitiously said 5,000 block themes, but of course that requires people to be able to create them and understand how to do so. So I took a look just now, and it looks like we have about 185 block themes, which is still pretty good from, what did he say, like about 25 or something low 30s that we had at the end of last year. So you can also contribute to this ambition of having a lot of block themes. It doesn't have to be only code based that you do this. There's also a create block theme plugin, which allows you to create block themes as well. So if you have a moment, this is totally a little tangent, but and you want to be creative, you can create your own block theme and add to that currently 185 if you have the time. And yes, thank you for noting, Courtney. There's some WordPress meetups that are arranging block parties, maybe a block party too, but a watch party for this. So if you have a local group, you should totally meet up with them and watch it together. All right, continuing along. So now that we understand a bit more about the phases of Gutenberg, why it came to be, I'm sure people are still like, but why would I use this? Why would I add this to my site? So what it gives you is essentially when you install the Gutenberg plugin, because that's how you get the new features, it allows you to just unlock experimental and beta features and improvements that may be introduced to WordPress core block editor. So you're essentially getting a front row seat to, as they say, the cutting edge of what's possible with the block editor. So if that's something exciting to you, you can definitely install this plugin, and it doesn't have to be on a live production site. You can play with it on a local environment or a staging site, but it just allows you to extend the block editor further and allow you to try exciting features before release. It also gives you a chance to engage with the makers of this project to share like what works and what doesn't. You can become part of the feedback loop as well when you engage with Gutenberg in this way. And with that note, I definitely wanted to note that you can give back to Gutenberg. So since it puts you on that cutting edge, that means you're also some of the first eyes that see all of these interesting new features that are coming to be. So if this is something that interests you, if you are more developmentally savvy, you can definitely contribute code-wise. And there's a GitHub repo where you can do that. And then there's other ways to contribute too that don't have to be as technical. You could contribute on the design side, the documentation side. We always need people to document things so that other people can learn how to use it well. Triaging support. So if you maybe are a great technical project manager and you want to help with making sure the issues that they're going to tackle are prioritized, or feature requests are input, you can definitely help with that. And then internationalization. If you are a speaker of another language or multiple languages, we always need folks to help out and make sure that we can spread this technology across the globe. So I'm going to pause there before we jump into a little demo here. I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions about what I've gone through that I can answer for you. Well, if anything comes in, I will keep my eye on the chat. I'm always happy to stop. But while we're waiting on maybe some folks to type their questions, I'll share with you the demo setup I'm using. I use local for my environment here, latest version, also 2023 block theme, which is the newest block theme for WordPress core now. If you haven't installed that yet, you should give it a try. I'll show you a bit what that looks like. And then also the latest version of WordPress, which is 6.1.1 now, and that was released last week. As usual, I do like to give other options here. 2023 was actually labeled as accessibility ready. So in my options here, Jace, the first theme, is also an accessibility ready theme. To be labeled accessibility ready, you have to go through essentially an accessibility checklist when you're developing the theme. So last I checked, we had about 4 accessibility ready themes, including JSON 2023. Hopefully that's increased by now, but that was only a week ago. So I'm always trying to share what is available for folks so that we can make the web a bit more accessible as well. And then we also have other local environments setups that you can use. Okay, so jumping in here to my site. I'm going to pop into this. I'll put it in the same here. So here we have my site. It's just freshly loaded. There is not much on here, but the default text sample page. And what I'm going to do from here is just go to plugins, add new, and do a little, I always put Gutenberg for some reason, put a little search in for the Gutenberg plugin. Do not be scared by the rating. We have a lot of folks that, if you read the reviews, you'll know, are resistant to change, and that's okay too. But don't let that deter you from installing it. It doesn't mean functionality-wise that installing Gutenberg is going to mess up your site or anything. We just have a lot of passionate people that are giving their input here. And if you have a review too, please do share. But I've gone in, I've installed it, now it's activated. And what does that mean? What does that do for my site? So I have listed a couple of features that are only visible when you have Gutenberg enabled. So I'll share some of those that I've found with you today. And I'll also share, I'm going to keep this tab open because it's kind of interesting to see when you deactivate it and reactivate. That's another way you can tell like what's possible with this extender Gutenberg plugin versus WordPress core. Yes, that's correct. Robin noted that the current version provides a warning not to use the plugin on a production site. So that's why I was noting if you have a staging environment or local environment, that's definitely the best way to test these features, mostly because things are in beta, right? So you don't want to overly rely on something that's in beta and might not come to exist later on. But anything that has passed review and gets merged into the next release is something that you will be able to continue using. And in order to know that, this is a very good change of pace real quick. I highly recommend folks to follow the Gutenberg new tag or even just subscribe to this site, because this is going to show you what is new in Gutenberg, essentially. And these posts come out bi-weekly, and they'll show you like what's going on, what new features are being developed, what updates have been made. There's a lot of work that goes into this plugin, and it's all visible to you. So nothing that gets introduced should be a surprise, because the team is very good at documenting what's being worked on. And if you are good in GitHub as well, you can actively see them working, see what issues have been merged recently. And yes, Robin noted that the 2-week cycle is indicative of the pace of changes being incorporated. So that's pretty quick, right? Like a 2-week sprint, essentially, of working on Gutenberg and improving it in some way or another. So with that said, you just saw something about a outline, maybe if you were quick to note in the page. So I'm going to open my posts here and show you what on earth that is talking about. Posts, add new. And so when you have Gutenberg enabled, and this is a feature they're actively working on, there's now this outline view. Before, and I can show you before, because I'm going to deactivate here and then do a little refresh. So when I click the list view, that outline goes away. And the before I'm talking about is this little icon here with the informational icon. So let me put some stuff here, a little content. Hi there. And then let's do another heading, maybe H3. Say hello. Very simple. But now that I have content on this page and I click on details, you can see here, oh, there's the document outline. Honestly, before I read about this change, I didn't even know the document outline was there. So that shows how much of the editorial capabilities I understood at that point. But this was available to you in this little area, and it is right now in WordPress core, right? Because this is with Gutenberg deactivated. And I'm going to save my draft here. Let's activate once more and do a refresh. So this is all now compiled in the list view, which I think for most folks becomes more obvious. So you can see the outline here, and down below the characters, words are all in one panel going forward. So people can now, especially content creators, can easily flip through that going forward. Another great feature, which I hear a lot of people asking for, and I'm like, it's hopefully coming, it's coming, that Gutenberg allows you to test out right now is, I'm going to do a / table of contents. So this is something, especially for folks who are maybe writing documentation in their website, or maybe have a recipe and they want to have like a table of contents, jump to recipe, baking, whatever it would be that composes your recipe page. They can now, with this beta, use this on their site. Linda says, I've been away from my computer for about 5 days. So much has changed in that short time. Actually, Linda, this table of contents has been around in the Gutenberg plugin for a bit now, but it just hasn't been released yet. So and then I'll just save this draft. And I want to show you when you deactivate the plugin and then refresh. It's going to tell you, hey, you don't have this table of contents block anymore. So this is, if I was only using WordPress core without Gutenberg, I wouldn't be able to use this because it's not part of that code. So Gutenberg is essentially allowing you to test this feature, and I've activated it again before it comes out. And I did a little refresh. But yeah, this table of contents, I hear so many people saying they want this. So I look forward to when this comes out, because I know it's going to really help a lot of people's editorial workflows. Another thing I found that's pretty interesting, and I'll leave my page, my little post in draft, is going back to my admin and then appearance and editor. There's going to be some fun stuff available. Okay, I'd say fun stuff. It's just like stylistic changes available when you go to your style section. So one, and I believe it doesn't do this when Gutenberg is deactivated, but you get this nice little animation. And then when you click to browse the styles, you get this zoomed out effect. So then you could see very quickly at a glance what these stylistic changes will do to your site. Whereas before, it would stay fully zoomed in when you're changing the style, which made it a little difficult to see the rest of the page as you're going through how that changes, unless you have a really big browser window. So going back, because we can play with this, I'm going to deactivate Gutenberg. I'm going to refresh this page here, reload, and then go to styles. Yeah, that little animation didn't happen when I went to styles, browse styles, and you can see here, it's not zoomed out when I select the styles. So activating once again, do my little refresh. We have that snazzy animation and the zoomed out effect. Also, what you're going to get with this that I discovered, I'm going to go back to my dashboard here without saving, is something that's coming up, hopefully pretty soon. It's that distraction-free mode. Let me go in here. And so I'm in this post now, and when you click the 3 vertical dots in the top right corner, you'll see here that there's this distraction-free mode now available. So it completely gets rid of all of the menus, sidebars, so that you can just focus on writing your content. I think this is where the backslash way of adding things comes in handy, unless you know keyboard shortcuts as well, because you don't want to then have to be like, oh no, go click the little block inserter and add something new and remove yourself from the distraction-free experience. You can just do a backslash and, hey, I've got this quote, I'm going to add this here, and keep working that way. I'm not quite sure like what's on the horizon for folks that don't want to use the backslash for this. I think it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Like even here, if I click up, there isn't like the block inserter that I could do. So maybe something that will happen is on the sidebar, there will be, or I just click this button here. Yeah. So that is pretty interesting. Oh, yeah. I think, yeah, having multiple ways to insert is going to be really critical with this. I think I hear someone shuffling with someone going to ask a question. Nope. Well, if you want to speak out your question, feel free. And then doubling back to just deactivate and refresh this post I was looking at. I'm going to restore my little autosave. Sure, let's restore that. Yeah, the distraction-free mode is gone. We just have what's called the full screen mode, where the admin panel goes away. I never stop learning, says Linda. Yes, good. Me too. I'm always learning in these sessions, in the prep for these sessions. I really enjoy discovering these neat new things that are available to us. So another thing that I do want to share with you all is more of an organizational change that they're experimenting with now with Gutenberg. And that's when you press the block inserter, pardon me, and you go to patterns. Right now, it's kind of like a free-for-all, right? It's like maybe overstimulation as well, because you're like, oh my gosh, like what do I choose? I don't even know what I'm looking for yet. And here is where you can go in and say, I want headers, or if you like the exploration feature, it's a bit more organized in my opinion. But when you have Gutenberg, and I've just gone back to my plugins now, activated, there's more organized patterns and section that I find to be a bit more calm to look at. So I've just refreshed my page and distraction-free mode came back. Let's turn that off. And I'm going to open my block inserter. And now when I click on patterns, you'll see it's text-based first. So it's kind of like that exploration mode, but without, when you click on it, everything appearing. So now it's, instead of a little toggle down menu, I can kind of take a moment to collect my thoughts and say, yeah, actually, I'm looking for footers. And then you'll have the previews come out here. So they're always experimenting with not just new features, but better ways of organizing how the back end can look for folks. And I believe most of the time with a accessibility focus as well. And if it's not, this is a time where you can comment on accessibility as well. Like, we're looking for folks to not only just test out the features and contribute to code development of the features, but also improve the experience for all folks. So this would be a great time if you want to contribute to share your thoughts on that as well. Linda says Gutenberg puts the style into editing blocks. I would say yes, and it is the block editor. So, as we go back in 2018, this is what introduced this Gutenberg project, is what introduced this whole block editor, for some headache, but also for some excitement to the world. So those are my top 5 feature finds that I wanted to share. Are there any folks that have played around with Gutenberg that want to see some features that are specific to the plugin? Okay, so we have the experimental zoom feature. So this is the zoomed out view of the site editor. I believe it's actually what I showed. Hold on, let's go back to the site editor. Or it's part of what I showed. Sorry, it's not the whole of what I showed. So since I've been turning this off and on, okay, Gutenberg is enabled. I'm going to Appearance and then Editor. Oh, I have to turn it on. Oh, thank you. It's under Gutenberg in the sidebar. I feel so silly. I should have shown this little area too, huh? So let's look at this too. So when you have the plugin enabled, I think because I was flipping on and off, it disappeared and reappeared as well. There is this Gutenberg tab as well. Let me actually get out of full screen mode with a couple options. So you have the demo, which I've just clicked into, where you can freely, without even creating a page, just start playing around with the features of Gutenberg. You can also access support, documentation. Okay, I'm not going to do that now. It wants to take me out, but all right, okay, never mind. So here, experimental settings. Oh, I'm going to thank you so much for pointing this out. I need to add this in my slides for the for the next one. But yes, the zoomed out view, we can enable this. Test a new zoomed out view in the site editor. And then of course it comes with the warning, right? This is experimental, right? There's nothing in here that we're not going to give you a full disclosure on. So save changes, and let's check that out. Now going to my editor here. Actually, I want to choose a darker theme here. I feel like it's going to be easier to see what's going on. Okay, and then now I'm like, where is that thing? Oh, here it is. Zoom out view. So top left, these I don't know about this icon, but of course it's a work in progress, but it says zoomed out view when you click or hover over it. And now, similar to when we were playing around with the styles, I have this zoomed out view of my site. So I can essentially see the whole of my site instead of just a small portion as I'm editing it. And I've just opened the list view as well so that I can see what is available here. So let's do a little, it wants me to add a pattern, which is kind of interesting as well. Here, insert after. So I technically can just start, it's pretty zoomed out, but, but I can start playing around here with my site. And this is also because let's add some columns. Wow, I can do this and still see the whole of my site, which is pretty cool. But as it said, it's experimental. So I'm running into, I can't click on this thing here. I would probably need to zoom out here and yeah, and now I can click on. It could also be that my screen is really tiny for this demonstration. So that is part of that feature. And I think that's pretty great tools. So you can just keep an eye on what all is going on with your site. Let's just save that. Okay. And so we had another request from Michelle. Can you sample a block with contents? So a block with contents, are we talking about the table of contents block, Michelle? And while we're waiting for that clarification, Robin added something like this is coming, which will also highlight margins and padding. Yes, like being able to see your full site and see how you're playing with the padding and margins adjustments affects it as a whole is going to be really critical. Sure. So I'm going to show just a block going to my posts. We can go to, let's do Hello World. And I'm going to remove this. I'm going to do my full screen mode here so the sidebar goes away. So there's a couple ways. I like, Michelle, to click on the list view to see all the blocks that are already on the page. You can also, I don't know if you've done this before, but like drag and drop with the list view. I also have had success with pulling from the list view and then moving it on the page itself. So there's a lot of ways to just play around with the composition here. You can put it, I just put my paragraph inside the quote block, which is pretty cool. So if you're like, oh no, I put this block ahead or after something, how do I move it? Just play around a bit, like drag and drop. There's also these little toggles here when you have it open on the page where you can move things around. So many options to insert a block. The top left blue box here. I didn't add any images to the site. So let's do a columns block if I can, not volumes, columns. Actually, this could be interesting. Let's do a columns bare bones, but then you have patterns too, right? So you don't have to be alone in your creative journey. The pattern library is a pretty great place that doesn't want to show up to me right now. What's going on here? It's a pretty great place to get inspiration as well. So if I wanted to actually have some images for us to play with, I've just clicked on a pattern and added it to my site. And once that's done, you can see here in the list view, all of the blocks that compose this pattern. And you can start editing the content as you like. There's many ways. Using patterns is a great way to get a composition that you might like for your site, but don't know how to do yet. And from there, you can kind of see the breakdown in the list view of how that was put together and learn how to do that yourself. You would probably want to also have the right sidebar open as well, because when you click on specific blocks, you are able to see the settings that are applied to them. So these blocks are all provided to you by Gutenberg. I hope that, okay, great. You're welcome, Michelle. And just looking up here, can patterns not be shown to keep people from adding random patterns to the site? Yes, that would be a custom thing that you would do to your site, though, to depending. We have our robo voice. Once again, yes, welcome everyone to Demystifying Gutenberg. I'm really excited about this topic because whenever I have a session, I'm usually fiddling around. Sorry for that distraction. It would just be depending on the role that you set that they can see patterns or not on the site. Yeah, it's not usual we get that, but it happens sometimes. So that was, I want to make sure. Scrolling up, can patterns not be shown? Keep people from adding random patterns on your site. Yes, and I think you can also lock down those kind of design aspects, Jean, to custom, of course, to certain roles as well. So it could be maybe if some folks have access to some blocks or patterns while others don't, or just not at all. Yeah, customization of the roles can dictate the patterns. Okay, so another question. With the functionality of the site editor, does that mean widgets will go away someday? I think it's more that widgets are reborn, not that they'll go away. And in the video with Matt, in the State of the Word video I showed earlier, he was talking about how you have more control over the widgets, because instead of going into the back end, which it actually won't be available now in this setting, in the before times, you would have that ability right here in the settings somewhere to like go to the widgets and, you know, add your text widget and your sidebar. But now all of that would live in your site editor experience itself. So, and it wouldn't necessarily be like going in here and typing widget. It would be creating a space on your site, maybe at this, where this image is, right? That is quote unquote the sidebar, and adding to it. Shall highlight. Okay, so just looking for other questions. Is there anything special that Gutenberg adds to reusable blocks? That is a good question. I am not sure about that, actually. So I've just clicked on this group, and I'm going to click on create reusable block. Testing Gutenberg is what I will name it, and save. And honestly, from the looks of it, I'm not seeing any differences. So not to say that it might not not in the future, pardon me, but from what I'm seeing, no, the reusable block settings look the same. Maybe this little preview. Let me see. Let's turn off Gutenberg real quick and deactivate, and then refresh. Oh, let me switch. Now let me just update the page, and then I'll refresh. Yeah, I think, oh, wait, no, that was in the reusable. No, that's still there. So at this moment in time, it does not look like it. But if anyone knows something about that, please feel free to share. Okay, so let's see. Is there any? Yeah, Can you make it a template after you design it? So there are many ways. Are you talking about a page template, or a set of blocks being a template, a page template, Michelle? Okay, so yes, you can create your own, and this isn't specific to Gutenberg, page templates. It just does require you to have the latest version of WordPress, so and a block theme. So when you go to Appearance and Editor, and then you click on this W in the top, you'll see there's a template section. And actually, with this latest release, you're getting a lot more template functionality, which is amazing. But here you can see the templates that come default with the theme itself. And you can go into these and edit them to your liking. So this is the home page, for example. You can flip through template parts here. I'm going to go back, but here's the template for a page. So whenever you create a page, this is the basic design flow it will follow. I'm like, let's do that little zoom out mode. Bam. You can see more of the page. Yay. And then going back to templates, you can also add new. And something new here, which is pretty awesome, is if you have a page where you're like, hey, I want this template to show only on this page. You can now do that. You can do that with pages and posts as well. You'll see here single item posts. So before, when you clicked on, and this is not Gutenberg, this is now with the latest release of WordPress, you can click here. I have the sample page. If I had more pages would list here, but I can now create a template just for this page. And once you save it, yes, it'll be saved with your theme itself. So going back here, since it's been created, it's already listed. I can do an add new single item. I can select, do I want this template to be for all posts or just a single one? If I want for just a single post, it'll list my single posts, and it will, you see here, it's already been created. So I can just start working from here and making those changes. So if you have a universal design that you want to have for your templates, I would say work from the defaults that are here. But if you have, specific designs you want for specific pages or posts, you now have that ability to create and alter that template. What is the large empty block at the top of the page? Large empty block at the top of this page? Oh, maybe it's this. And just going back, I think this is the header. No, the group. Yeah, what is that? Let me get out of the zoom view. It's a placeholder image. So clicking into it, and it's not really an image because it's not pulling from something in your media library. It's just a setting so that you can see, this is the post featured image. So what this is doing is when you have, it's a saying that when you apply a featured image to your post, this is where it's going to be set. So this little placeholder, I think it's because of this design that it looks like a spacer, but when you click into the list view, you can see it's the post featured image. And probably if I had a lighter design, it'd be a bit more obvious. They're always fiddling with the look of this placeholder image. Placeholder, I don't want to call it an image because it's not in the media library, but y'all, I hope, know what I mean. It's just supposed to give you an idea of what this is going to look like when you publish the template. Image placeholder. Thank you, Linda. We're coming up on time soon. Were there any other burning questions I can try to answer for you all in our session today before I go on to my closing thoughts? Michelle says, you have been a wealth of info. Thank you. I'm so pleased to hear that. As I said, I'm always still learning. So I try to just share what I've learned with you all. And I love how you all contribute as well, sharing the zoom out feature in the experimental section. I really hope you enjoy the feel of this kind of session. Then I guess I'll go on to my closing thoughts. I wanted to share more resources with you all. I already shared with you what's new in Gutenberg in that preview, definitely follow that. If you're kind of like a Gutenberg head now, you'll see the most recent updates and what they're working on there. There's also a publication called the Gutenberg Times, which also sources information from the community about Gutenberg. I believe there's a podcast as well, so you can learn more through that as well. If you are in the Make WordPress Slack, the core editor channel is where folks are going to mostly be talking about the developmental updates of WordPress core and Gutenberg. And then if you're interested in maybe creating blocks, I've linked out to the block editor handbook. So that'll give you more information on how to do that. So these slides I'll be sharing in my update in the meetup group afterwards. So don't worry about that. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. I hope you can continue your learning. Try using Gutenberg on a staging site or your local site. Play around with these new features. Also share your feedback on them. And if you're interested in keeping up with what I'm doing, you can find me at Destiny in the Make WordPress Slack. I'm also on Twitter. We'll see for how long. That's been up in the air lately. But there's also a lot of these sessions, these online workshop sessions for you to check out as well in our calendar. So I highly recommend you to browse that in case anything else catches your eye. And if you want to facilitate, we have some information on that as well. But lastly, we have this individual learner survey. If you haven't filled it out, it would be amazing if you could take the time, because this is essentially what folks such as myself and others on the training team, other contributors, are using to ensure that we create quality content for all folks who want to learn WordPress. So sharing your input on how you like to learn, what content types work best for you is going to help us just make this content much better for the world. So if you have a moment, please fill that out. We would be eternally grateful. I'm going to stop the recording here.